Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer Malamed, Shlita. We hope everyone had a great Shabbos. Of course, we began the recitation of Slichos for the Ashkenazim, the shortest amount we could have this year. We're supposed to do a minimum of 4 for Motzai Shabbos, so that gives us exactly 4. But we will continue our learning as we approach the Yom Hadin, and we continue davening for Chalei Tzva Haganah Yisrael, Refuah Shalem L'chol Petzuei Yisrael, and a safe return of our hostages. And we daven Le'ilei Nishmat Seren Daniel Shimon ben Rav Zeron V'Shelei Shamikum Damo. The next chapter, Hamimaher L'Teis Me'Hatfila, Masai Yetzei V'Ama Yidaleg. If someone has to leave davening early, or you're in a hurry, this is very often. We have what we call in America a commuter minyan, where people have to catch trains, people have to catch a bus, they have to get to work, whatever it is. So when should you leave and what can you skip? Amiras Tehila LeDavid V'Kedusha Desidra Adifa al Amiras Tachnun. So the recitation of Ashrei and Uvalat Zion is more important than the recitation of Tachnun. Shefligu Chachamim B'Shevach Ha'omer Tehila LeDavid B'Chol Yom Shalosh Pamim. Because as we saw in the Gemara lauds the person and requires us to say Ashrei at least 3 times a day. And we do that, then Hushahu ben Olam Haba, the Gemara Brachas and Daf Dalet says that if you say it 3 times a day, it's guaranteed to go to Olam Haba. And as we saw, the Gemara in the end of Sotan Daf Mem Tes, that one of the things that kept us going after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, the merit of recitation of Kedusha Desidra of Uvalat Zion. Ve'ilu Amir's Tachnun hi Rishus. But Tachnun is only a Rishus. So therefore, if someone is davening alone and doesn't have time to recite the entire davening, so if you have a choice, better to say Ashrei and Uvalat Zion and to skip Tachanun. And since we mentioned that Ashrei and Uvalat Zion have their basis found in the Gemara already, these are more important, will take precedence over the Psalm of the day, the Shir Shel Yom, Ketores V'Aleinu L'Shabech, those who say Pitum HaKetores, which we'll see perhaps in a later chapter, and Aleinu, She'enhigu L'Omer B'Tkufas HaGaonim V'Harishonim, which were only instituted later in the period of the Gaonim, and then in the Middle Ages of the Rishonim. HaMispal B'Minyan, V'Ne'elatz L'Tzeis L'Fnei Sof HaTfilah. So let's say someone's davening in shul and then he has to leave, the commuter minyan as I mentioned. So a person should try very, very hard to stay at least until Uvalat Zion. And one certainly should not remove one's tefillin before Uvalat Zion. And you should at least wait until after the Kaddish of Tiskabel, which is the Kaddish after Uvalat Zion, before Aleinu, and only then should one take off his tefillin. And we're talking about here in times of need, a pressing time. But ideally, of course, one should remain in davening all the way until the end, till the after all the mizmorim and the kaddishes, etc., etc. Or speaking on a regular basis, let's say in terms of removing tefillin, and you're going to stay the whole time, but sometimes as soon as the last kaddish is over, you have to bolt. So at least wait until after the Kaddish of Tiskabel, and I would say even after the recitation of Aleinu, say Aleinu, and then you could start removing your tefillin. But again, that's if someone is only pressed for time. Speaking of pressed for time, we are getting closer and closer to the Yom Hadin, and I had a request actually from a loyal listener about a shir. Obviously, the news that came out of Israel this week, or I should say out of Lebanon, that one of our arch enemies was killed, and how do we balance the Benapolo Yivchal Tismach? We shouldn't overly rejoice at the fall of our enemies, but at the same time, we're extremely happy that a terrorist murderer responsible for so many deaths and so much evil in the world has now been removed from this earthly existence, Baruch Hashem. So how do we balance those two? So that's a topic that we'll cover at some point, but certainly something that's on our minds, and we hope that everyone is preparing accordingly for the Yom Hadin, and we will continue here as much as we can as we get closer to Rosh Hashanah. But until then, hope everyone is having a great day. Thank you so much for listening. Please continue davening for Chalei Tzva Haganah Yisrael, Refuah Shlema L'Chol Petzuei Yisrael, safe return of our hostages, and our learnings dedicated to Ili Nishmat, Sarah and Daniel, Shimon Ben Rav Doron, Vasheli Hasham Yakum Domo. We really appreciate you joining us. Have a great day. We'll see you here next time.